Pt.1 family, we welcome everyone to this question and answer class. We are all student teachers of the master teacher, who was formerly known as Panababianun, also as His Excellency Dr. Malachi Kobina Zodak York, who's been writing books for over 50 years and teaching us affirmations. We will do our best to represent our master teacher and answer any and all questions that you all may have at this time. You know, we are also a part of the Student Teachers Association, which was created by our master teacher also. And as our master teacher always encouraged us, as well as everyone else who comes across the information, don't believe a word we say. Check it out for yourself. Research, investigate. That's what it's all about. So at this time, if anyone have any question, go ahead with it. Test.
Yeah, I would like to just get an understanding of the imagery that we have around us, deities, you know.
When you say imagery, are you talking about what we consider our temple in front of us?
Everything that we see here. Just
Okay.
to get an understanding of it.
All right, I'll put you this way, good brother. What you see around us is a reflection of us, of who we are, or the latent divinity we have inside of us. You know, meaning this, when you go to Africa's Egypt and you look on the walls, those are things that our ancestors have done. They have mastered art, they have mastered science, and they express things that was in tune with nature. That was a reflection of our greatness. In this day and time, and this is just a small portion of the greatness that we're capable of doing. About 10 years ago, I don't know if you heard of a place called Tamare, Egypt of the West? No? Okay. I'll give you a little history, and this is going to actually help with your answer. In 1993, we moved our community from upstate New York to Georgia, right? In 1996, we started to build what you considered an Egyptian village. Mind you, some people say Egyptian city, and it was called Wahani. Also later on, it became known as Tamare. Ta dealing with the water, Ta dealing with the earth, Ma dealing with the water, and Re dealing with the sun. So the Tamareans were those of ancient Egyptian descent. When I say ancient Egypt, I'm talking about pre-dynastic, and that's who we are as Nuwaupians. We are descendants of those great people who built the pyramids, who built the Sphinx, who are responsible for civilizing the entire world. So what we built on Tamare, which was only 19 acres of 476 acres of land, was an Egyptian replica of what we're capable of doing when we're in our right state of mind and being again. So what you see around you is a reflection of just that. You know what I'm saying? Over here on your left, you see a depiction of the story of creation. You see Geb at the very bottom, the green deity, who symbolizes the earth. You have in between that, with a hand outstretched, is Shawao, the deity of the wind. And you also, above is Nut, which is a sky mother deity. And on both sides is representation of Hunum, who is the fashioner, the molder in ancient Egypt. So this actually is the story of creation, as you see on the walls. And on your right, which is my left, you'll see depictions of different pillars with different significant meaning. You understand? And you have various deities in between them. You have the deity known as Tohuti, mispronounced as Thoth. You have the deity Osar, mispronounced as Osiris. You have the goddess Hathor, actually, people think that's Isis, suckling her child. And to the very end, you have Ma'at, the deity of truth, justice, and order. You understand? So those are different deities. Oh, and let me not forget the goddess mother Bastet, mispronounced as best or bast by the Greeks, who don't know how to pronounce our tongue. So this temple is a reflection of us as Tamareans. And Tamareans are the children of Re, mispronounced as Ra by the Greeks. And wherever the Tamareans gather is where Tamare is established. So you being here, us being here, this gathering of energy and our creative will and power brings about Egypt to life. In other words, brother, right, do you have a mother and father? Let me ask you that question. Do you have a mother and father? You do. And you are here, you are proof that they exist because you exist, correct? So as people who are descendant of the ancient Egyptians, we are proof that those people existed because we are here making that proclamation. I am an Egyptian. So when you see me, you see Egypt. I didn't have to go to school to do that, to carve those on the walls, to put those symbols that attracts me, to put those colors there. Those are things that was dormant within us. So this is what this is. But you have further questions to that, I'll be happy to elaborate.
Could you go back over what they meant? Starting with that one.
You talk about the deity?
Yeah, I didn't catch the name.
It was Tahuti. You want to write that down, brother? The deity Tahuti in ancient Egypt was the deity of writing, and he was the one who recorded all deeds in ancient Egypt. He was later adopted by the Greeks, and he was called Hermes, which they get the word Hermophilus? Can't remember the name they use. I have trouble with Greek dialect. He was the deity of wisdom in ancient Egypt. He recorded all things. And you also had the deity Asar and Aset. He's also known as the father in ancient Egypt, right there. Yes, Asar.
Asar?
Yes, right. Or, I don't know if you heard the name Osiris before.
What does it mean?
I'm not sure what the name Asar means.
What do you represent?
Okay, he has several meanings. He was originally the deity of vegetation in ancient Egypt. Later he became the deity of resurrection, being that he was the first Nathar to be resurrected. Are you familiar with the story of Asar and Aset?
No.
Okay. I tell you what, brother, so this won't take too much time. We have books available, in particular, that speaks about the story of Asar and Aset and what took place with that. So you can have further information on that.
Yeah, I have someone. I just like to make sure that it's the same.
I got you. There are many stories, and they change within time and also in degrees of thought.
Right.
Because, of course, they ravel the mysticism or mysteries. You know, and that's how the secrets in ancient Egypt was protected. In other words, when you look at a symbol, you have an esoteric and exoteric meaning to it. Exoteric would be what the layman knew. You know, I see a picture of a bird, and that bird had a significant meaning according to the general public. Then you had the mystery behind that and what it really symbolized. And it was 9 folds deep. It was deeper than what you knew. I mean, what was generally administered to everyone else. So it was like that with all things in ancient Egypt. And that's how we were able to keep and protect the secrets for so long.
So Aset is, what is she?
Aset is the wife, for lack of a better word, the goddess, and she's the wife of Asar.
Right.
Also, she is the mother of Har. And the name Har means on high, where you get the name Horus from. Horus would be the Greeks' rendition. And if you follow the story, the brother of Asar was known as Set or Sotuch. You know? And I'm sure you're familiar with the story. And there was rivalry between Har and Sotuch. They fought. That's where you get the term, the sun set, which there was Sotuch.
Sun and the moon?
Or the horizon. Huh?
Sun and the moon?
You said the sun and the moon? They had different depictions like that. That he's supposed to be the deity of the darkness and set is light. All that was later adopted into religion, where darkness is bad and light is good, when in fact light is chaos, and darkness is where you get your tranquility or peace. We are the true children of the darkness, not the children of chaos. You have a question, brother? Okay.
What are the triple stages of darkness? I heard somebody say about the 3 stages of darkness. What are the triple stages, 3 stages of darkness, do you know?
You said 3 stages of darkness?
Yeah.
Okay, give me a moment. I gotta hold this tablet. Excuse me, brother. I'll get back with you on that question. We're going to try to find the exact answer for that. All right. In the meantime, I'll take the next question. How many people here for the first time? It's 1, 2. Okay. Hope you like the place. Oh, brother, if you don't mind me asking, where you from? New Jersey? Okay. Go ahead, sis.
Book, I had a question out of the book, The Prism.
The prism?
Yes. Verse 188. You want me to read it?
That's fine.
Remember, you become what you eat and drink. So my question is if we're supposed to only be eating vegetables, fruits, and grains and stuff like that, and those fruits and vegetables were living, and they had a life force. So if we're only eating those type of things, then does that mean that we're going to start thinking like the life force of what we're eating and become like the plants and the... You get what I'm saying? I mean, because they had a living force. I mean, even though you put them on the ground and they die, they still have a living force in it.
That's right.
So I want to know, will you start to feel like a tree or start to have a similar vibration as what you're eating?
I think I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Well, understand this. The master teacher broke this down a long time ago. Plants have a different kind of spirit than animals. He didn't elaborate too much and went into that. When you talk about the concept of you are what you eat, you do take on those life forces as you take in that sustenance, right? And then based upon your genetic makeup, you will develop certain cravings based upon what you take in. For example, if you are carnivorous by nature, or if you have ancestors that are carnivorous, and you feed that force inside of you, then that craving becomes stronger. And that life force becomes a part of your life force also. So anything you take in does become a part of you. Now I'll put it this way, when you take something in that thinks, you adopt that mentality also. And I'm going to read something that may help with what I'm saying to you. This is coming from soul, spirit.
What verse?
Give me one moment. We're going to start at verse 46. This is a book right here. This is what we call a Patarak, which is the revelation of the Nuwaupians. And this is just one chapter called Soul, Spirit. And it touches on this particular topic when you deal with taking things in. Verse 46. Ghost plasma comes into being at the moment of sperm and ovum contact, or spermatozoa, fertilizing an oocyte or egg. The sperm head is a spark. It thinks. You see the difference? It thinks. It travels in the liquid or fluid in the womb through the heat to survive and reach its destiny. So there is mental activity in the male sperm from the brain of the male from being the oversoul called synapses. Brains, synapses. Es nutat, brain nuts. The thinking process starts in the 2 testicles. Pakakastwi, that's a Nuwaupic word for that. Paimanan, the sperm of seaman, liquid male seed. This is divine mind at work. Yet the female holds the egg that must be fertilized, making her Mother Earth. Physical nature as in fertilized, fruitful, producing abundantly fertility, fertilized or pure earth, which is called fertilizer. So in fact, women do not or did not need the male. But the point that I read that is to make you realize that, and this is something that Partner Babianon touched on the whole geneticist doctrine, as we call it, which is the science of genealogy and genes and how we relate to things, you know, and what we take in internally, be it food, or if you take in the male fluids, it affects your thinking also. So as far as life force exists in all things, because all things has a counterpart of the physical will be the etheric counterpart of all things. Plants, animals, trees, birds, rocks, you name it, everything has life in it. So you take upon that essence. That is not to say that when you eat a plant, you start thinking like a vegetable. You know, I mean, there might be some people who are thinking like vegetables, but that's not to say that, because it doesn't have that same relation or that mental spark. Yes?
I would just say that if we do look at eating the foods that come out of the earth,
Yes, brother?
then whatever came out of earth, then you become intact with the earth, because your spirit is resonating from the earth. Therefore, you can feel everything around you. So you begin to wake up conscious. You're not unconscious, but you're conscious of your surroundings and what's happening around you.
Okay, if I understand you correctly, you're saying by taking of the food, it makes you relate or be more in tune with the planet itself, and it has an effect on your consciousness?
I'm just saying for the fact that a lot of things that we eat today, they're not made for this body.
Absolutely. Now, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, so the things that are made for this body is from the earth. So if you understand the earth and everything that's in the creation, you are one with it. Your spirit is one with it. So you're more conscious of the things that are happening around you than being enslaved to the things that are happening.
Absolutely. And that's one of the biggest topics actually within our affirmation classes. Little by little, our master teacher is giving us the science of being simple, eating things that are of this earth, not taking in things that have parents. That was one of the biggest things, you know, because everybody's genetics is different. You have to understand something. We are all mixed in some way. When we were in our right state of mind, in our right environment, we were able to be more in tune with that planet. Our right environment meaning the continent of Africa, where all things grew and we were in tune with the soil, the sun, and the water at one point in time. When we were kidnapped and we were brought here and we were forced to mix with other than self and kind or flesh-eating people, right? We decided to adopt their ways, not only their mindset, but what they ate, what they took in. We want everything they have. We want their wealth. We want their food, right? We want their women. Not all of us now. I'm speaking generally as a people. We start to adopt their mindset and their ways and even their genetics. So a lot of things that we crave inside of us that we know is not good from us, a lot of that coming from gene mixing with other than self and kind. Self and kind meaning of the same race, of the same stock. This is why when you go to ancient Egypt, and when they dig up the bones, and you can do research on this, you won't find the ancient Egyptians with canines. That didn't even exist back then. So that's why I said I agree with you. At one point in time, we were in tune with the planet in such a way. Now that time is coming up again. You know what I'm saying? This 25,000 year cycle, the divine in us is supposed to resurrect again, and we're supposed to be back in tune with Mother Earth and live through this next sun cycle. You understand? I wanted to read something to you. If you don't, give me one, bro. I'll see your hands. Give me a second, please. Okay. This is coming from a book that our master teachers written. It's called The Procession Change 2012. And I'm going to start at verse 73, and I'm going to read on. Verse 73. This change, the change it's talking about is that procession change. This change changes every time the axis of the planet Earth rotates into a new position and a new constellation. In fact, according to our ancient records, everything on Earth changes. The energy force of the planet Earth changes location on the surface of the planet Earth at two very specific points on the precession of the equinox. It is not the apogee or the point of the sun or moon's orbit further from the planet Earth, the highest point, the farthest point from the center of the galaxy, nor is it the perigee or point or moon or planet's orbit at which it is nearest to the planet Earth, the closest point that you are interested in. No, it is the point when the direction of the axis of the planet Earth begins to point towards the center of the galaxy and when it begins to point away from the center. So on December 21st, 2012, starting from 3 a.m. to sunrise morning, the axis begins pointing to the center of the galaxy, and the energy force of the surface of the Pt.1, which in our language is the name for the planet Earth. Now also, every 12,000, 13,000 years on Earth, a sacred and secret event takes place that changes everything, an event that changes the very course of nature and history. And at this moment in time, this rare event is occurring from 2009. I'm speaking about the Earth's energy force. Its solar plex central sun, which is Anun-Reye, or female, right? Connected to the Paput, the center of the Earth, is an energy that appears to behave much like a double helix as it moves. It is this very energy that gives rebirth to the true seed of Nut, Geb, everywhere on planet Earth, and that true seed is us, right? Not in any religion or church, temple, mosque, of their religious worlds, of fictions, these are facts. This is the renewals of Negroids, records after 24,000 years, and 6,000 of them blinded by a white light of evil teachings or ghost, spirit worship. And this is something we've been practicing for 6,000 years. More strongly in the last 400 years when we were kidnapped and was forced to take upon somebody else's way of life, not even culture, and religion. The planet Earth energy force is always attached to a single location on the surface of the planet Earth and stays there for a period of about 12,000, 13,000 years. Yet then it moves to a new location for the next 12,000, 13,000 years based upon cycles of time, or what is called the precession of the equinox. And when it moves, your idea of what spiritual means changes. It transforms according to the new energies of the future cycle, leading you into a higher spiritual path based on facts, not faith, but fate. So there's a pulse of exactly 12,920 years, also called an am, when the polarity of the Earth's energy force, or two poles from the female, Nun-Nunet, Anun-Re, at the center of the Earth, that's dealing with the energy force in the center of the planet, as its sun or solar plexus to the second pole, which is the surface of Geb. Going back again to what I showed you earlier, that would be the surface of the planet is male, which is Geb. The center would be female. Part of the planet Earth, or Geb, as male, as all males have. When the polarity of Earth energy force changes to the opposite poles, and it simultaneously changes location on the surface of the planet Earth, the new location not only rapidly wakes up the Negroid people, this is touching on what you spoke about earlier, good brother, living near this sacred point, which is Africa this time, but any Negroid anywhere on planet Earth, and also it sends a frequency into the electromagnetic grid surrounding the whole planet. This in turn affects those consciousness grids its ways that are determined by the planet Earth's own DNA. It's our time, Nuwaupians, our time. We will grow according to a set of divine plans and designed by our Nataru, which is our overseers, our ancestors. So I touched on this for a particular reason, to make us realize that we are in that particular day and time now. This is why a lot of us have been waking up since the opening of the seventh seal. We've been waking up and craving the right to know and not believe and have faith, as we've been taught to do for so long. Just believe, just have faith. No facts, no confirmation, just accept what it is. Which brings me to another point. I was discussing it with one of my brothers earlier. right? Do you find it strange that everywhere on this planet, every culture, there's not a study? Meaning this, you can be a theologist and you study theology, correct? You could be an anthropologist and you study anthropology. You could be a paleontologist and you study paleontology. You could be an Egyptologist and study Egyptology, right? Have you ever heard of a Europeanologist or Mongolianologist?
Sure have.
You haven't, because if you're an ologist or if you have an ology or study, there's a study on something. Why is the focus on Egypt?
Right. Why is it Egyptology?
Exactly, that's my question. Why Egyptology? Nowhere else in the world you say a ology on it except Egypt, because they know that's where the truth is, right? This is why they constantly are digging up in ancient Egypt and trying to find the truth. They're trying to find the secrets. They know it lays dormant in us. They're digging up our ancestors of ancient Egypt, Africa, and they're constantly doing a study on it. Why? Because they know that's where the mysteries remain. They know it's all started with the ancient Egyptians. When I say ancient Egyptians, understand this. We're not talking about those Egyptians you see there today who call themselves Egypts. Those Arabs, those Turks, right? Those Berbers, those, what are they called? Those Europeans or Indo-Arabs that came in there, migrated, supplanted the people, pushed them out, and claimed Egypt today. Who are whitewashing the walls, who's desecrating the pyramids and desecrating our tombs. Those are not real Egyptians. Nor are we talking about the 46 dynastics, right? Those were our brothers who migrated back into ancient Egypt. But they are not the original ancient Egyptians or Tahites, those short status people of pre-dynastic Egypt who ruled, who knew the sciences and built the structures that is idolized today. Those are the real ancient Egyptians. And those are those who we relate to. Those are of Napata and Mudaway. You understand? I'm going to take one more question. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, earlier you was talking about, when you talking about the male and females reproducing, you were saying how the woman didn't need the male. Was that as far as reproduction, she didn't need the male?
You said that she needed the male as far as reproduction.
Yes, she saying, as far as reproduction, you're saying that she didn't need the male to reproduce?
Yeah, that's correct. At one point in time, and this is something our master teacher is showing us, the true God of this planet is the woman. She was here first. Out of goddess, you get God. Out of she, you get he. Out of female, you get male. It's not the other way around, as monotheistic religion has given us for the last 6,000 years, with a male chauvinistic concept. The fact is, we lived in a matriarchal society where women ruled. We respected her as our mother, as our guide, as a backbone to our nation. We walked besides, it was a god and goddesses that walked besides each other. And woman at one point in time, before the male was created, had the ability to reproduce on her own. This is why out of the X chromosome, you get the Y chromosome. And I'm going to read a passage out of one of these scrolls. Give me a moment.
Is that what that represents?
That being,
The mother goddess? This right here.
oh, Bastet.
Yeah.
Bastet has several significance, but she was the deity over children. This is why she held the instrument called the sistrum, which is an instrument, you know what I'm saying, that was played with children. And the reason why it was a cat, because a cat are very protective and they're very motherly by nature. But it has significance also to that. But the science deals with chromosomes or DNA. It deals with the X and the Y chromosome. The fact is, and you can research this, they have confirmed that males have 2.8 less genetic materials than female. And I will refer to a book that our master teacher has written, Dr. Malachi York, also known as Panababianun. It's called The Genetic Kiss. You know what I'm saying? And the genetic kiss really goes into that science. Also, who is God, male or female? That really expounds on how men were grafted or came out of woman. How we have less genetic materials. How she is the goddess. You understand?
How did she do it?
Read The Genetic Kiss. And with that answer, I will pass the class on to my good brother, Nabad. What's up?
I'll tell you, bro.
Go ahead.
All right, I have a question in regards to the Patrak, spirit, soul, spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's my understanding that it's more than one type of soul and more than one type of spirit. And I was wondering if you could expound upon those and elaborate on the differences.
All right. Do you know what verse?
No.
All right. Give me
I
a
think it
moment.
was just something I heard in one of the updates.
All right.
It was two different kinds of spirit, two different kinds of soul, and I just want, hoping if you could elaborate on it. But I don't think it was something I read, I think it was in an update, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. Give me a moment. Let's see. Okay. All right, I'm gonna read it to give you a full answer. Okay. It says, Nuwaupians, I told you of Ba, soul, and Ra, soul. I spoke to you about Ka, spirit, and Nefas, spirit. And I've talked to you about Achak, etheric being, and Hu, oversoul. And you asked again about these parts of your existence. Pa is your overbeing, which be your guide. Basically where you get your, I know he explained one time, he linked the Hu to the, basically like the mental reservoir, be your guide. Your Achach being was the part of you that always existed before entering the physical. Your, the Pa Ba, it says creative expression being, which means your emotional being. And he explained that the Pa Ruach, the breath of life, was that first breath that was given to you when you entered the physical, that first breath of life. And it says the Cha is the exoplasmic being. That would be like your spiritual being, that ghost-like, what most people see when they say, oh, I saw my grandma, or I saw this person, they most see it like in this ghost-like figure. That would be your exoplasmic being. And then the fast is just a living being, which be like, basically more towards your character, that energy-wise substance. And Chat is, as you know, your physical body. So, but that's as much as I know about those different souls and spirits. Right. Any more questions? All right.
The book, Sex Force, Spirit Force,
Mm-hmm.
it talks about the 6 gifted beings being grafted. What was the purpose of them being grafted? Did they have to be grafted?
Well, in one of the updates, I remember as the master teacher explained, basically, when you say the 6 ether beings, what do you mean by that?
Well, that's about it. 6 ether beings that vibrate, I guess, on 6 ether.
Okay, so you
They said that they were the only beings that were grafted and not birthed. I
okay.
want to know why were they the only ones grafted? What was the need for that?
Okay, the 10. Okay, okay. Well, what verse was it?
I think it's like verse 9.
Okay. I know it was in some of the updates. Bob explained that basically you had these beings, the Pleiadians, were basically food for the Draconians, which are different extraterrestrial beings. So basically, the Pleiadians grafted a being that basically looked like them, basically had the same complexion, almost the same genetics. They grafted these beings with the Tainum Chayu, the Caucasoid. They grafted these beings for food, and like a deal with the Draconians will give you, what was it, 300,000 a day? 300,000 a day,
and that was the deal for them not to become food. But for any other reason why they grafted them, I'm not really too sure. You said verse 9, right? Oh, right.
I just wanted, cause I can't remember, I can't remember if it was an update or not, that they were created to protect the Egyptians.
But
And when they got the taste of blood, that's when everything went awry.
But the
Tanin killed.
yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I don't think I heard that one. We doing researching more about it, so when he comes back, I'll have an answer for that.
All right.
But all I know with the Tainum Chayu from the existence how and why he was playing it. Basically, it was an agreement that the Tainum Chayu weren't supposed to even be on the same land, breathe the same air as what you would call the Egyptians, Africans, black people. They wasn't supposed to even be around them. And basically they, broke that. That was dealing with the certain cycles in time. And they broke that, came over to Egypt, which is really a Greek word from Egyptos. They broke that, they came over to Egypt, and that's where you get the invaders who came into Egypt and the Hikakasutu and the Hyksos dynasty, and they say they basically in history they say the Hyksos ruled Egypt, and it wasn't really Egypt, it was just a portion of Egypt they ruled. But that's where you get those invaders and these these Turkish Arabs saying they're Egyptians. It's basically mixed.
I wanted to know if you could elaborate on why is it that if we have Arabic or English names or slave names like that, how can that mess up our spirit or mess up our being instead of having an Egyptian name?
All right. As it was explained, that basically when you see Egyptian names, like you see the hieroglyphics, they were in cartouches, those binding ropes. It was a sign of protection. When you have a tone that relates to you, which is your ancestors, basically that's a vibration. It's a tone that sits with you and makes you respond. Like if all y'all had the same name, basically Marquise or something like that, and I say Marquise, all three y'all gonna turn. But that's why we had our different names, and a lot of times you see people's name change. It's just a thing of protection. I can actually read a passage. This is Patrak, the way Rakum, you all's names. So it says, so each name, title, attribute is made up of tones and sounds or notes. If a name is more than one part, such as Amun, you hear two notes, or beats such as Ah, Mun. Now look at Zahudi, Har, Asar, Ashat, Satach, Nabhat. You see by these are a form of music, notes, even rhythm, rhyme, sounds, and beats that are all vibration. Now, Nuwaupians, pay close mind to these which I am about to teach. Remember, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C are one octave. You notice that there are two letters for C, the first note and the eighth note. If you have lined up for each of these 8 notes in this one octave, what's called a tuning fork, which is used to define each key or note. Then strike the first C note, and by that it begins to vibrate and make the sound C major. You will find out that as it vibrates on C note, none of the other 6 notes, D, E, F, G, A, B, will vibrate with the C. And that's basically saying, you ever use a tuning fork or seen one, how it operates? Okay, it's basically just saying, if, well, I explained before, if, all y'all names is Marquise, all y'all are gonna turn. But if your name was Marquise, Trey, Chris, then you're the only one that's gonna vibrate and look towards me. And it was and another bill where in another update, he was explaining that basically you have deceased six ether forces who basically by those tones are waiting for a doorway into the physical to relive life. So if you have Trey and some deceased six ether force person, maybe a killer or anything like that who passed, and they're all, as it was explained, they're always listening. So by me calling you Trey, you're basically dropping your vibration by acknowledging that, reaching it towards that disembodied six ether force. That's that six ether force vibration, and you're allowing that being to come through you to relive the physical. So that's why in ancient Egypt we, kept changing our names for protection, and why we have Egyptian names. All right, what was it? Was it your question with the why was the Tatum Khayu grafted?
Yes, it was.
All right, well, I've just shown further elaboration on that. Okay, it says the curse of Baras, leprosy. So in fact, they were bred to be germed man, to spread that destructive physical disease, and the Khamahu, Pleiadians, quarantined them for 4 cycles of 6,000 years, or 24,000 years. That would have removed their devils off the planet Earth. Actually, the Khamahu, Pleiadians, were under the control of the overlords, the Tananu, the Draconians. They were the people eating them. It says, who ate them for food. So the Khamahu, Pleiadians, promised their overlords a replacement for food other than themselves. That's why there are so many instances of cooking humans in a pot and pan in their Bible. This rapture is the reaping of these new cattle, Pakakasu, the Caucasoids. In the year 2000 AD, when actually, it says, which actually happened out in Nome, Alaska, they have 6 months of darkness, so it is easier to abduct without being seen. The Khamaru Pleiadians also had a plan to create the germ man that would kill their overlords, Pa-Tananhu, the Draconians, who would eat this diseased meat and kill off. However, it did not work. And that's because he explained that most of the Draconians, they were immune to most of the diseases that were here on Earth. Like AIDS, that was one of them.
All right.
No, you're welcome. Go ahead.
I was reading the Astrophagist Kiss, and it was talking about other disembodied beings that aren't physical, able to take over your being and make you do things you wouldn't do. Can you expound on that?
Well, as Baba explained, basically that was through the blood. And through the blood is where you, the life force. So he explained that through different intoxications such as alcohol, drugs, caffeine, stuff like that, but in particular, it was the alcohol. He explained once you drink and because of the ethanol, it thins the blood. So a lot of times we see a person wobbling back and forth and they falling and stumbling, he explained those are beings pushing him to get an opening. So once he gets cut, those beings can enter through the blood and control him. He said a lot of times you see beings who drink, people who drink, they got a lot of scars from falling. So those beings enter you, and a lot of times most times people's drunk, they wake up and, they don't remember half the stuff that happened. And, either their friend or somebody has to tell them, and they just have no recollection because of those beings were in control. And basically you took the back seat. Those in the driver's seat, you took the back seat. But that's, it's mainly because of things you do. But he explained that basically, it's not so much the beings just out of nowhere just come and attack you, is you have to basically show willingness for those beings to come at you. It's what you do that provoke those beings to come forth into you, which he explains most times. Sometimes it's your 30 personalities, but it's particularly you saying, okay, I'm I know I shouldn't go do this, but I'm gonna go do that, or go drink. So those beings basically feed that, and they come into you, and that's when you get under their control. That.
So say if you decide to go and become something you're not, you know what it's not, but then you see yourself being a being, but you don't know what you are, so you go and pretend that you're something else. So whether it be hypnosis, whether it be anything that's iconic or mythology to you, you become that because that's what you give your will up to.
You saying if you know you and you end up doing something that changes you?
What I'm saying is you're submitting your free will. You have a will to decide what it is you want to do.
Yeah.
When you give that free will up, then you submit yourself into that force.
Yeah, basically. Yes, if you willingly know what you're doing, and you still do it anyway, you basically chose your outcome. Whatever happens to you is basically on you. That was your question, the answer?
Yeah, that was just,
Oh.
just adding on to that.
All right, thank you.
But he had mentioned, the opening of the seventh seal.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain that?
Well, we have to get the whole time. Well, hold on for a second.